It's time for Absolute Catwoman, or rather it's time for Absolute Batman to meet Selena Kyle. Today we're going to be taking a look at Absolute Batman number 3. We've been going through issue by issue so far, so let's keep that train rolling. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, asking if you're still all in on Absolute Batman. If you ever were. I'm sure if you weren't, you will let me know. I'll of course have links to the previous videos down below, but we'll also do some brief cliff notes. But before we dive into anything, I'm thrilled to announce today's sponsor, Global Comics. Global Comics is a digital entertainment platform that is home to many comics in many genres. They come from a variety of companies. DC boasts approximately 400 titles on the app. However, the app also has a wide array of other publishers. Boom, Image, Dynamite, Vault, and that's just to name a few because there are also independent self-publishing creators and webcomics. Global Comics is really easy to use. You can search by company, you can search by genre, you can curate a library for yourself, you can download and read in an offline mode. Many of the outings have panel-to-panel reading capabilities. It's just a great way to dive into a series that you may have been curious about. They often have new releases close to the release date. I recently just finished reading Upgrade Soul by Ezra Clayton Daniels and it hurt me in the best ways. This was a sci-fi graphic novel that went to some places. So you never know what you'll find on there, maybe some new favorites. I know I have. You can sign up for free or you can make a membership to get access to more titles and issues all at once. I have a link for you down below in the description. And if you click the link, you can use my code GCXCasually for 33% off your membership. So if you're interested, please check that out and happy reading. And now to the Absolute Batman lore. Previously on, narrated by Alfred, who is in Gotham to investigate a crime wave, which it turns out has been orchestrated by Black Mask and his gang, the Party Animals, brings him into conflict with Batman. The issues have so far been divided into main story and flashback, with the focus of the flashback always being Bruce so far. Each issue has furthered some part of Bruce's origins, from his father's shooting at the zoo toward the fallout of his childhood. And yes, in this version, Bruce only lost one parent. While the present part of the story has seen him getting closer to and learning more about Black Mask, as well as showcasing some of his adult relationships, such as with his mother and his friends, who are mostly made up of characters who in the main universe are his rogues, and most likely still will be. Sorry, Bruce, that's the Batman curse. This Batman is starting from a lower class background, and that's a lot of what's being played with the changes. They radiate outward from that point, or they're meant to. The last issue saw Batman fleeing from Black Mask's men, after he did learn some more information about him. The highlight being, no, not the Batman 66 reference in the way he climbed up the building, but the giant Batmobile he escaped on, which this issue refers to as a dump truck. He fled on it with Alfred. There was some suspension required here. For some, this was a really cool moment. For others, they had questions. When did he put that there? How did nobody notice it? So that's almost the point we'll be coming in on. And of course, since we're close to release, as always, spoilers. The spoiler queen. Absolute Batman issue 3 is written by Scott Snyder with art by Nick Dragotta. And as of this issue, it's really starting to settle into the concept of the Absolute Universe. The establishment is mostly done. Who is Batman? What are his circumstances? The city, his friends. A lot of that has been shown, and so now it's more in the building phase. This is the Zoo Part 3, a name that since Part 1 has meant to refer to more than the location of the shooting of Bruce's father. It's also meant to be a way to view Gotham, the human menagerie angle. You know, the most dangerous animal, man, in his artificial habitat. Also, this title page does show the lion, which his father highlighted in issue 1, which we spoke about because they were clearly inferring some things through the lion in terms of the status in society and what it meant, and they bring it back in this issue. Vindication. This issue starts off with a flashback because at the end of issue 2 we were teased with Selena Kyle, so this opens with Bruce and Selena. So this is our first expansion on Selena in the Absolute Universe, setting up the relationship she has with Bruce and some of her backstory. And it maintains a core element of the Bruce and Selena or Catwoman and Batman lore, something that is carried over, which is that he's chasing her, both literally and figuratively. There are some parts of it that are a little on the nose, like how she's wearing a cat hoodie, it even has a little tail, but at the same time those kinds of clothes are popular with young girls and older ones. Never say no to a good cat ear. I currently do not have any to demonstrate my point, but people do. You've seen them. Cats see great, but only for a short distance. So don't see the drop. Don't see anything at all past this ledge right here. Got it? It's true. Past 20 feet in front of them, it gets blurry for cats. It'll be interesting to see if that also factors into her character in terms of maybe making her a bit short-sighted in terms of her goals. I'm going to hop around the way the book does because the flashbacks are meant to break things up and kind of adjust the pacing because there are many different scenes that are shown in this issue. The main part of the story picks up with Alfred and Bruce barreling down the street in this Batmobile. Well, for Alfred on it. There are a few things happening here, both character-wise and plot development-wise. We're going to get some information during this action sequence, but also there's going to be a contrast between Bruce and Alfred's methods. Secret Agent Alfred is a blend into the background kind of person by necessity, Absolute Batman is a blow it all up type of vigilante. This scene is fun. It's leaning into being a chase scene, but it does have some moments of dialogue that feel that they're more suited for the scenario than for the character saying them. Specifically Alfred, a character who has previously been established as of issue 1 and 2 as being more grizzled and more reserved, and while having an appreciation for some of Bruce's antics, ultimately more mature. Hence, when you have a line like, "I may actually hate Batman," it's amusing but a little jarring. It's part of a setup to bring it around to, "I may actually love Batman." It matches the situation and the joke makes sense in terms of construction, but it feels a bit out of place for Alfred in the way he's been conceptualized in this series. For some that may irk, for others it may not. It may just be go with the moment, enjoy the moment, be in the moment. For many it's just going to be cool to see this giant Batmobile with its velocity lines zooming down the street. It also has guns, and once more they're not going to shoot bullets, so it's fine. If one had an issue with Batman using the sorts of weapons that he's been using in this series, the battle axe, the shooting Alfred in the face, all those kind of things, then this is not going to do anything to assuage that. It's still going. Here he's shooting out mini bat projectiles, each with a different electrical charge designed to blow tires. People probably died. Also, I love taka 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 as a sound effect. Alfred's the one who ends up shooting these at people. During this, Alfred explains who Roman Sionis is and what he's doing. That the Black Mask is someone paid to destabilize areas. And here's where it gets interesting because it really starts to play with that inversion in terms of Batman's wealth and his status. As Bruce is plowing down this street, Alfred suggests compromise, or rather working inside a known system to deal with Black Mask. Take the deal that Black Mask offered him at the end of issue 2, and then use that money to fund himself, and then when established, go after Black Mask a bit later, or rather that Alfred will have the intel he needs and him and his team can do it. This is meant to rub up against this Batman's ethos. Because despite the changed circumstances, this Bruce still has the exact same drive and determination, and that kind of rigid unyieldingness. And it does set up an interesting moral quandary if one is willing to engage it. However, it's also one where if someone feels like they have the answer, whatever it may be, it may feel more irritating. However, in the context of Batman in general, it's an interesting question given his usual status in the main universe, but it also works on its own for this one. This moment, it's not a dig at main universe Batman though, because that's not something that Bruce Wayne does. He doesn't make deals with criminals to advance himself. There's a huge difference between the way that Bruce utilizes his wealth and status and position in the mainline universe, like philanthropically and using his connections to get where he needs to be, versus making actual deals with criminals, which is what is being proposed here. Although, of course, there's some who will say, no, they're all criminals. It's exactly the same. These kind of discussions can be interesting and fun, depending upon where you have them and what segments of the internet. Other places they can be fraught and disasters. So there are some who may read this as a kind of snipe at the mainline Batman and may feel protective of that Bruce. However, this seems to be meant to be more of a pondering of, can this Batman be effective without those resources? Also, Batman put his logo on the wrecking ball that he's using to smash into things. Brand synergy. Put a pin in that because we'll come back to it. Because there's something else to consider about this conflict and why it may or may not land for some people. This whole sequence goes hard. Alfred is ejected into Gotham Harbor, and then Batman drives the Batmobile off the pier. This is broken up with another Selina flashback, where we learn that she's a foster child who's having a hard time finding a permanent placement. And while Bruce offers, which adds a bit of a savior complex to their relationship, she turns it down. Issue 3 does a lot in terms of world building. There are things that have been teased for the first 2 issues that really start to be expanded upon. And oftentimes it's happening simultaneously, for example, character and world, so it's strong in that sense. The Bruce Eddie scene is a good example of this, where we not only get to see that Eddie is building an intelligent robot, because that never goes wrong. That would be the true subversion. And then Edward Nygma built a Riddler bot and everything was fine. Bruce had been going to Eddie to learn more about the party animal masks, and really he'd been probing all his friends for information. Well, Bruce, the mask has 3 functions. 1, it completely obfuscates the wearer's identity from all global or local deciphering means. 2, it creates a wallet for the wearer connected to a highly protected private network of cryptocurrency called the Black Coin. And 3, as you know, it provides objectives and targets for the wearer with different valuations. Of course, a crypto scam. At the same time as this, Bruce is able to use his connection to Harvey to investigate the Arc M name he learned about in issue 2. Bruce just using all of his friends. When/if they find out about this, probably when. No, I'm sure he'll be fine. No one will want revenge or anything. The Arc M thing looks like it could be a fun play on Arkham, in that these arcs are secret prisons. They're being funded, some seemingly by the Joker, because it's a JK Holdings company, which actually is a joke that works on a couple of levels. They're also playing with genetics at some of these, and the first one is said to be in Santa Prisca, so Bane coming. Giant Bane soon. One of the fun things about these scenes is getting to wonder just what will get these characters to where they were in the mainline universe universe, since many of them are going to go in that direction in certain ways. So depending upon how familiar you are or aren't with the main canon, you're going to get different things out of it. For people who aren't, you're just going to get to see it evolve, and for others who are, you're going to get to see the compare and contrast. The issue also does a lot more in setting up the idea of how corrupt this Gotham is, and the way that it is intertwined with criminal elements, as it's shown through how Black Mask is able to get in with politicians and the police, which also doubles as a scene to show how dangerous Black Mask is. Then you also have this building mystery of, why are they building this Arc M here in Gotham? Arc M, the biggest yet, is planned for Gotham. Look at it, Bruce. Look at what you're up against, and all you could lose. This issue is really focused on the idea of how to enact change. In the last flashback where Selina has brought Bruce to see Zorro, because that part of his lore remains intact, Bruce sees Zorro at some point as a child. It's a canon event. Here's where they bring the lion back up. That day, you remember the joke you made to your dad about the lion? How the lion had it made at the zoo? So what? And your father, he said maybe the lion was safe and cozy, but it didn't mean anything? I mean, there were also some class implications in that first issue rather than it just being a gilded cage kind of thing. But this issue is more centering the idea of society as the zoo and hence the cage. Something that Bruce must break free from to enact some true change, because they also said earlier that the lion was going to be set free. Hopefully it's going to an animal sanctuary. Animals that have spent their whole life in captivity tend not to do too well if just suddenly abruptly released into the wild. If we take the metaphor too far in that direction, it could change what it means. But overall, this moment, what it's doing and what it's clarifying is it's trying to build into the overall thesis behind the book of needing to break said cage to affect change. Break it. It also sets out that Bruce does have advantages others don't, namely his intelligence and drive. This scene is also the sweetest scene in the issue, since his friends show up and they spend time together. Man, when some of them go rogue, this is going to be up there with the top 10 anime betrayals. This Bruce, despite his more obvious willingness to manipulate, which is only clearly visible because he has more people to manipulate early on, he does have more to lose right off the bat. Every time I say that in these, it's actually not a pun, but it comes across like. His mom is also going through her own stuff in this issue. She's going to be deputy mayor. So many people are reading this just waiting for her to die. They've got like a Martha countdown. This many issues within the live Martha. Overall in this issue, things do feel bigger than Batman, an accomplishment because he's huge. And that does seem to be intentional this issue, to demonstrate that Bruce is up against these larger forces and there's lots that he doesn't understand yet. There are other players and pieces seemingly moving independently, and he can't control everything. The issue ends on the idea that he's going to accept the deal, although it did have one of those zoo signs with bats aren't blind beforehand, so it could potentially be foreshadowing. It's also nice that they've kept the plaques going. So that is issue 3, and the ending brings us nicely back to our pin. Think back to the branded wrecking ball. This issue is very strong and it's dense in a good way. It takes a while to read because there are a lot of moving parts and some things to think about and piece together. Elements are starting to build out, not just for Bruce, but for Gotham itself. It's starting to take on a clearer shape in this universe. Not just in opposition to the main universe, but as its own thing. Also, there are stakes in this book, but it's still willing to have fun and be a bit over the top. The latter being something that some resonate with and others don't. It still had bombastic over the top moments, but they are more tempered by the rest of the issue. This issue also begins to start to question Bruce's methods and whether or not he can be more effective, and it's here in the context of the deal where some of that disconnect can occur, particularly if one takes Bruce only as presented in this universe. Contrasting to main Bruce, this whole will he or won't he take the deal has a lot more weight. Weight is my word of the video apparently. However, if one just takes this universe, it's a bit different. Conceptually, the idea of what could Bruce do with all of these resources is an interesting one, and many may jump to imagining all the things he usually has. However, if you just take this world, so far, this Bruce doesn't really feel like he's at a major disadvantage. He's doing pretty well, and in the moments that we've seen him, he's come out on top. We've heard from Alfred that he's had to help him out of situations, but we haven't really seen it. Instead, what we've seen is that he's got a cool suit, it's multi-purpose and effective and dangerous, potentially deadly. He's got this network of hideouts and caches. He's got a huge Batmobile dump truck. He's got his own ways of getting intel. He's also clearly willing to borrow/steal things if he needs to, like how he took Alfred's bike, which what did he do with that? Did they mention what he did with that bike? Where's Alfred's bike, Bruce? The point is, this Batman feels like he's doing fine. It doesn't seem like he's lacking anything or that he's disenfranchised in some way. It's very easy to see him turning this deal down because you don't really have the contrast of what more he could do than what he's already doing, because it seems like he already has so much. This Batman has had huge moments with his axe and melting people's feet feet. So despite his positioning, he doesn't come across like he's struggling. Even though if one thinks about it, he likely is. He probably doesn't have the cutting edge of the things that he could have, or all the surveillance or other things. The cool factor of how he's presented wars a bit with the reality of him being more behind in terms of what he has equipment-wise, or what he could use. If it seemed more like he had less, which is an interesting sentence, the offer may appear a bit more tempting as a result, or like something that could potentially tempt him, which would add a bit more of a layer to the conflict, an idea of, ooh, he could actually really use that. Whereas as it's currently presented, it seems more like, no, he'll just turn it down, or if he's saying yes, it's just to trick him later on. Although, perhaps that could be the intent. Perhaps we're not even meant to question the idea that he could even take this. No, take your offer and it's all digital currencies. There's nothing as satisfying you can do. Take your offer and delete, I guess. Now, of course, this could change. Everything could change next issue and recontextualize things. I'm excited. The family moments in this have been very heartfelt. And this issue started to lay out even more seeds for what it could do. Just in general, there's been some splicing hints. Please lean into splicing. Batman Beyond vibes. They mentioned genetic modification and the Joker. Perhaps we're closer to absolute jonkler than we realize. Apropos of nothing, you know that if the Joker doesn't normally laugh in this universe, but he does laugh when he sees Bruce for the first time, which he's supposed to, that will just strengthen the amount that people ship them. They already do in the mainline. Now they'll do it here too. I don't make the rules. I just live in the zoo. What did you think of this issue? As I said, there were many elements. There are some things that I didn't even fully touch on because we could have just kept talking about things in this issue. There were layers, which is part of what really worked for me. It had the most going on of the issue so far. However, all these are just my thoughts and I want to hear yours. What do you think of this issue? Do you think that it's the most settled? Do you think that it still has a lot of ways to go to establishing itself? What do you think of the conflict they're building up? Where are you most excited to see more of? What directions do you not want to go in? Something I didn't talk about that you want to highlight, just please put it all down below. While you're down there, please follow YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much to Global Comics for sponsoring this video, and thank you for taking some time of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.